Reddit. When did you immediately nope out of a place you just walked into? My brother got off on the wrong floor in his apartment building. He was on his phone and wasn't paying attention to the numbers on the door. He walked in and saw a man making food in the kitchen. They made eye contact. My brother explained what had happened as he was backing away. The next day there was a notice in the elevator telling residents to lock their doors as there were sketchy people entering unlocked apartments. My brother really wanted to believe he was not the cause of those notices, but I have a very good reason to believe he was. I was 18 years old and was finally legally allowed into bars, and there was this bar in my hometown called the Barbary Coast, and for some reason I just always really wanted to go in there since I was a kid. So, I'm all dressed up in my club clothes, it's the 90s, mini skirt dress, heels, hair done, makeup, the whole nine, and I go busting up in this bar. And it's a old dude salty sailor bar, because of course it is. You think the name would have tipped me off, but no, and I swear to you the record scratched and stopped and everyone turned to look at me standing in the doorway like, are you lost? And I was lost. So lost. And I stammered some semblance of an apology and got the F out of there. Friend at work invited me over to play some Madden 2004, walked in and apparently he had kids. One was naked and peeing on the wall in the corner. They all were naked, all three. Various ages. Two very large drunk women also hanging out. Like a mescaline dream, I still wonder if it even happened, because this man never showed up to work again. The manager said he had been arrested for something like check fraud or something. When I was a kid, there was a church in our town that took donations of used clothes, and every once in a while my mom would round up stuff none of us kids could wear anymore and we'd go drop it off there. Then one time we went to drop some stuff off, and of course mom parked the car out front and told me to take the clothes, stuffed in a big green lawn trash bag, inside. So I stroll up with this bag over my shoulder like Santa Claus, shove the door open, walk inside, and realize it's not a church anymore. They'd moved, and now it was somebody's house. There were a couple of kids sitting on a couch where they'd been watching cartoons, but were now staring at me all wide-eyed and confused. Being an especially awkward kid myself, I couldn't think of anything to say, so I turned around and walked back out without saying a word, got in the car, and told mom to floor it. I sometimes wonder if those kids still talk about it. I was walking through a lively, public park once, and it was such a big area. A long path going around an entire lake, an unbelievably big playground, it was so freaking cool. I, of course, wanted to explore the nature part of the park and went on the path. Everything was normal, I caught a picture of a few turtles and ducks, it was lovely. But then the trees started getting thicker down the path, almost entirely blocking out the sunlight. I think what bothered me so much was the fact that this lovely, loud park suddenly went silent without reason. I freaking booked it back to the playground. I'm not ready to die. Good instincts. When a forest suddenly gets quiet, GTFO. Went to a bar in the south while on a work trip. My buddy and I walked up and there is loud music playing, bouncer outside. Buddy asks what is happening tonight and the bouncer tells him it's white night. Buddy says come again. Bouncer yells it's white night. Buddy leans back and goes let's get the fuck out of here. Walking back to the car, he tells me it's white night. Neither of us is white, so we were like fuck these racist assholes and their bullshit bar. Couple days later at another dive bar, we see a flyer for the previous bar, advertising live music featuring local band White Night. We both look at each other and go white night. Maybe because I'm white, but my first tuft would have been white clothes. LOL. Was on a church youth group trip in late high school, in one of those passenger vans. We are a bit lost and end up along a gravel road and pull up in a driveway because a guy is just out there. The youth pastor thought we could ask for directions. Before anyone could ask, guy pulls out a gun and starts to rant about getting off his property or he will start shooting, and we book it. Turns out we had stumbled onto the cabin of a guy who would go on to kill 3 and injure 9 at a Planned Parenthood a few years later. When you dodge a literal and metaphorical bullet in one go. I had recently turned 18 and decided to try gambling for the first time. There was a very small casino. It was a random building with a worn-down casino sign and inside was just online gambling. I walked in dressed like I was ready for a night out on the town. All I saw was a dingy room packed with depressed trashy people sitting at computers from the late 90s occasionally ordering drinks and hot wings while a few old fans blew BO over the room. I had walked right through the door, surveyed the scene without moving from the door, then I turned right around and left. LOL, the first time I walked into a casino I expected it to look like a James Bond movie. Instead it looked like a flea market, with the clientele to match. Was getting picked up by a friend who owned a blue X-Trail SUV. I was exhausted because I'd just been at a coding competition for 4 hours where my brain was running at maximum load. I'm a fast walker, so I picked out the car roughly 200 meters 600 feet away and straight-lined my way there gazing at the ground as I went. I quickly pulled open the door and threw my bag in the car, sitting down and exhaling a sigh of relief now that I was done for the day. I looked to the right. A random 50-ish-year-old woman was staring at me in horror with her jaw agape. Nope. Grabbed my shit and just walked home. Once was won a trip to the US in Los Angeles, decided to just go shopping a bit and one store I wanted to go into just started blasting music by some DJ and I instantly turned around and went somewhere else. Apparently it's somewhat normal for stores to have DJs blasting music and I've actively avoided all stores that do this on my trip. Can't understand the reasoning or logic behind wanting to turn a clothing store into a wannabe nightclub during the middle of the day. Those stores were generally much more empty than the ones that just had normal music for some background noise. I was working as a buyer and merchandiser for a local clothing boutique in a mountain resort town a few years back, and when a co-owner decided he wanted to set up a stage so he could play live music, I thought he was insane. I had no idea this was a thing until I read your post. It was a freaking bizarre experience. If I remember correctly, the other owner mentioned that he had spent upwards of $10,000 on this. I got the picture that if she humored him and if he had a project, it would keep him mostly out of her hair and probably other aspects of the business. It was a nightmare watching him constantly bring in more stuff for this. He had a raised stage, heavy-duty professional speakers, and had the local high school's old auditorium curtains custom tailored to the space. I left about the time he was installing lighting. From what I gathered from some old co-workers is that he got burnt out pretty quickly from playing 3 or more nights a week with little to no audience and forcing his employees to clap enthusiastically after every song, so he forced another co-worker, who was actually quite talented, to play there. He later tried to make it an open mic thing. The last I heard, they were looking into getting a liquor license. Seriously. Just frickin' open a bar. When I took the position it was supposed to be a higher-end outdoor/athletic/casual boutique. I look back, and I can't believe it was real. The company was a mess, and I was severely taken advantage of. The owners were dysfunctional and the main owner would play favorites and gossip just enough to build distrust between staff members. It was such a toxic environment. If I ever walk into a store and this type of shit is happening, I'm noping right on out. I don't know anyone who wants to shop somewhere and feel like they need to clap at the end of a song or feel rude for just ignoring whoever is playing. I'm 100% sure they lost a ton of money doing this. If people came in at all, they would just watch him play. Nope, 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 nope. I hate it. I live in Florida. My best friend and I decided to do a weekend road trip to Key West in the summer, a lot less busy. We were walking down Duval looking for a place to have lunch and some drinks. A lot of places actually close between lunch and dinner. It was probably around 2:30/3 p.m. We are dripping sweat because it's August in Florida. She goes into a bar and I'm behind her halfway up the step. All I see is a sweet golden retriever laying down in the bar. She stops and I do that kind of cartoonish running into her back. She turns and says this isn't a place for us lol. I don't even know what she saw. All I know is there are some clothing optional places, so I can only imagine haha. You should have asked.